This week on Global Sunday, it's the political apocalypse. Tonight, liberals turning conservative, conservatives turning on their fellow Tories, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. It's about time things got interesting. Good evening, everyone. I'm Danielle Smith in Calgary, and this is Global Sunday. Tonight, on June 28th, will you be voting for or against a political party? Ad scam, the merger on the right, and the usual concerns about the honesty and decency of politicians are causing many Canadians to abandon their traditional party loyalties. If you're feeling guilty about altering your allegiance in this election, don't. You're really not alone. Even the professionals are doing it. David Orchard ran for the leadership of the federal Progressive Conservative Party in 1998 and 2003. He will definitely not be voting for Stephen Harper's new Conservative Party. David Orchard joins us now from Saskatoon. Welcome to Global Sunday, Mr. Orchard.
Pleasure to be here.
And in Ottawa, she was appointed to the Senate by Pierre Trudeau, but just days ago parted company with the Liberals and moved to the Conservative side of the chamber. Senator Ann Cools joins us in Ottawa. Thank you for being with us, Senator.
It's lovely to be with you, and I shall be voting for Mr. Harper.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. David Orchard, we all know that you're a Conservative, but we also know that you think that the new Conservative Party is actually a threat to Canada. I want to get to talking to you in just a few minutes, but first I'd also like to know from Senator Cools, how is it that a longtime Liberal has decided that it's now time to switch sides?
Well, it was not an easy decision. As a matter of fact, I would say to you it was one I made with a very heavy heart. And it was very monumental, but put in the vernacular, you could say that the Liberal train was going nowhere, no place that I wanted to be. And I reached a stage where I was not prepared to vote Liberal, and I was not prepared to ask anybody else to vote Liberal. And that caused me something of a very personal crisis, and I decided that I should take action forthwith. You know, I think it was George Washington who once said that as human beings we must labor to keep alive in our bosom, in our breast, that celestial fire that is called conscience. And so I just reached a stage where I could no longer defend what I would call the Liberal position on many issues.
But you did support Paul Martin during the leadership race, didn't you?
I did, and that is a part of the problem.
So how did he disappoint you?
Well, this is what I was just about to say. I believed that Mr. Martin was going to bring some resuscitation, some renewal, some regeneration to a Liberal government, which had grown pretty tired and pretty stale, and quite frankly, to my mind, had pretty much exhausted its moral authority to govern. And I have discovered that this is not the case. And that discovery hit me pretty hard, and it was crystallized for me on the question of the firearms registry, the firearms program, when Mr. Martin, in the person of Minister Albina Guarneri, promised a review of the firearms registry. And as you know, two other ministers made an announcement, and Minister Guarneri has not been seen or heard from since, by the way, so obviously she was shunted aside. And then this announcement was made, which is in essence talked about no review at all. So I have to conclude that the promise of a review was a question of optics. Further actually to add to that, this firearms registry, this catastrophic, disastrous registry, a colossal waste of money, has now turned out to be the center point in Mr. Martin's campaign strategy in respect of his ads. So very clearly, you must understand that this has happened to me before. In the Liberal caucus. This happened to me on the question of divorce. I crisscrossed this country and worked with many Canadians on the question of divorce. I promoted shared parenting, and the Senate Commons Committee came up with the concept of shared parenting. And I promised Canadians that, yes, Liberals would bring reform, and then from one day to the other, after one minister promised change in 3 years, they just reneged totally. So if anybody has reneged, it's Liberals who have reneged, and I feel, quite frankly, the Liberal Party abandoned me a long time ago, just as it abandoned Mr. Trudeau.
And I think that David Orchard feels the same way. You're not the only one who feels a sense of betrayal. Mr. Orchard, can you tell us a little bit about why it is you've decided to leave the Conservative Party? Is it because of Stephen Harper, or is it because of the new party itself?
Well, there's quite a number of issues here. Perhaps I could begin by saying I'm a farmer very much opposed to the firearms registry as well, but there are much bigger issues here, and I hope that Senator Cools doesn't find she stepped from the frying pan into the fire. This new party of Stephen Harper's has no constitution. It has never had a meeting of its members. It's had no policy convention. It simply took over the Progressive Conservative Party in a highly fraudulent manner. 20,000 Alliance members joined the PC party, swamped our membership, and then voted twice, voted in the Alliance ratification vote and the PC ratification vote. And now this new party, Stephen Harper has admitted that policy in the new party is going to be exactly what he says it is. So there's no accountability to anyone, least of all to the membership. But the views of Mr. Harper are going to be crucial. And if you look at some of those over the past, he wanted to go into Iraq. If Mr. Harper had been leading the government, we would be having Canadian men and women coming home from Iraq in body bags in that highly illegal war. Mr. Harper's views on bilingualism. He wrote an essay defending, there's a local former Alliance member right here in Saskatoon, Jim Pankew, who tried to introduce a private member's bill to emasculate the Official Languages Act. And Stephen Harper wrote an essay defending it called Bilingualism, the God that Failed. And Mr. Harper's position during the Quebec referendum in 1995, he stated, quite frankly, it doesn't matter to me whether we have one national government or several. This is while all the rest of us were fighting as hard as we could to keep Quebec in the country. This was Mr. Harper's position.
But Mr. Orchard, don't the polls, I was just going to ask you, though.
Okay, can I just get in here?
By all means.
Mr. Harper, I think you're being very unfair. Sorry, Mr. Orchard. I think you're being very unfair to Mr. Harper, and I notice you're quoting many statements that seem a little dated. I would like to say to you, in my view, what has happened is that the Conservative Party has reunited because it came apart. It went in different directions, and the real challenge now, and I think Mr. Harper has risen to the challenge, is to show that there is a party that can reconcile Western interests and Eastern interests.
Well,
I think you're being a bit hard. A little bit unfair, quite frankly.
Senator Cools, with all due respect, I ran for the leadership of the party in '98. I ran again in 2003. I'm a farmer from Western Saskatchewan, so let me tell you the Alliance position, this new Harper Party's position, is to dismantle the Canadian Wheat Board, which is Canada's largest net earner of foreign currency. It's the one remaining bastion that defends Western farmers against totally being thrown to the wolves. He's on record that he would dismantle that institution. I just listened to his ag critic yesterday saying the same thing. They want to get out of the Kyoto Agreement, which is the only international agreement to cut carbon dioxide. They want to privatize the commercial.
I don't want to surprise you, Mr. Orchard, but I disagreed with the Kyoto Agreement as well on grounds of Canadian sovereignty. And I must tell you, Mr. Harper, this government has done a lot of committing Canadians to agreements internationally and then to come home to undermine the Parliament of Canada. And I believe that such decisions should always begin at home and go abroad. Well, so, and this government has done a lot of these kinds of things, whether it's the International Criminal Court or Kyoto. So there was a lot wrong with all of that. So,
Senator, far be it from me to defend the Liberals. I've been fighting against them most of my life. So, yes, but I'm telling you, I'm speaking about this new Conservative Party from in the trenches. Let's talk about the Aboriginals. Stephen Harper's key man, his right-hand man, his advisor, is Tom Flanagan.
Senator Cools, I just have to get you to hold on for 1 minute so that Mr. Orchard can make his point here. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Harper's chief advisor is Tom Flanagan, who came here from the United States and has made his career attacking Aboriginal people. He's written a book, perhaps you could take a look at it, called First Nations, Second Thoughts, in which he advocates the deliberate assimilation of Native people and the privatization of the reserve system, which will mean the end of Aboriginal culture in Canada. That's why Aboriginal people all across this country are fighting and are terrified, frankly, about what this government will mean if they get elected. And in terms of the French-English issue, if we have a Harper government committed to giving more power to the provinces, and the Bloc in a minority situation, the Bloc will back Mr. Harper if they get for a price, if they get enough powers of the central government dismantled and given to the provinces.
Just one moment. I have to unfortunately take a quick break. Senator Coles, I'll give you a chance to respond to everything that David has said when we return. But right now, Canada's #1 current affairs talk show, Global Sunday, will return in 2 minutes.